Welcome, everybody, to our March 2024 Animal Reiki Talk. It's really great to be here with all of you. And tonight, our focus actually is wild animals and exotic animals and how to share animal Reiki with them. And I want to talk to you guys tonight about how to let animals lead those sessions, because, of course, that is really what makes the Let Animals Lead method unique, and it's what is very close to my heart. And I think, maybe wild animals are the best teachers of letting animals lead, because we can't rely on many of the things that we do with our family animals or domesticated animals that we work with. So, because they aren't as comfortable with us as human beings. So, we have to really dig deep into that spiritual connection. And so, that's what I want to talk about tonight. And then I'll open it up for Q&A, and then we will have time for our healing circle at the end, which we always do together. Sound good? So that's the plan. All right. So there's really three different kind of realms of sharing animal Reiki with wild animals. And I would differentiate, first of all, wild and exotic animals. Wild animals are native to the area. Exotic animals are not. And so often exotic animals could have been brought in like historically, and now they sort of live endemically in that area, even though they aren't naturally from there. But also, exotic animals are often kept in rescues. They might be bought and sold, traded. And so you see them in a non wild environment. You'd see them in like a captive environment. So when we share Reiki with wild animals and exotic animals, really it's the same approach, how we work with them, whether they're in the wild or whether they're captive, whether they're native to the habitat or not. And then besides working with animals in different scenarios, there's also the idea of the situation that wild animals find themselves in and how we can share Reiki with those bigger issues. And so I want to talk about that as well. So let's start really today, beginning with let's just think about the wild animals that we come in contact with in our lives, just in our everyday, in our backyard, taking a walk with our dog. Maybe some of us live near beautiful hiking trails. I'm very lucky in Marin County here. We have a lot of beautiful hiking trails, and I'll go out with my horse and we'll see all kinds of, we see bobcats and coyotes and bunnies. Oh, so many different kinds of birds. Um, and then, in your backyard, you have birds landing in trees. You might have squirrels, or we have deer and coyotes in our neighborhood, and raccoons. And so think about, for a minute, just take a moment and think about, who are the wild animals that you might see just living your daily life? And some of you might live in a more urban area, and so perhaps it's less likely to come across a wild animal. Some of you might live in a much more rural area. My assistant Joe lives up in Canada, and she has bears in her backyard. So it really, you, depending on where you live, it might be a little more challenging to connect with wild animals. You might have to go out somewhere in the wild and take a walk. But some of you might just interface with them all the time. So just take a minute and thinking about, who are those animals, the birds, the creatures that live around where we live that we just see. And that's the first place to start when we're going to share animal Reiki with wild animals, is start where you are, start in your natural life, in the habitat that you habitate. And you cohabitate actually with the animals that live in your home with you and are in your family, but also with the animals that live around you. And so the way that I see it is, so wild animals are a little bit different in the way that we might connect when we share animal Reiki, because They may not be comfortable with our physical presence. Probably they're not. Or we might not want them to get comfortable for their own safety with a human because perhaps they can trust us, but they can't trust every human. So we don't want them to get used to being around humans. Or, for example, an animal who is injured but is going to be re-released in the wild, right? We don't want them to get used to humans. So the first thing we have to do is kind of get rid of our physical presence or minimize our physical presence. And so when we work with wild animals, we're typically not going to be having the physical touch connection, which might be chosen by our domestic animals. Unless we might be working with animals in rescues who, are wild but used to people and tame, and you may be able to be with them more closely. And so then, in that case, they might come over and choose to have physical touch. But most of the time, there's going to be no touch involved, and so we have to kind of let go of that, and it can be hard to do that. Um, Maybe it's harder with our domestic animals because we can kind of rely on, petting them and they're used to being touched. But with our wild cousins, that's not the case. So the first thing we do is let go of all of that physical touch stuff. And then the second thing is we want to become really aware of our thoughts and emotions. All animals are sensitive to our thoughts and emotions, but especially wild animals. They're so in tune with their, you know, all their surroundings, and it's really a matter of survival that they have to be completely in tune with the energy in the space where they are. And so if we show up in a really chaotic place in our minds, in our emotions, that will definitely scare them off. So we have to monitor and regulate our physical selves and our mental emotional selves to be as gentle, open, non-invasive, non-pushy as possible. And this is why the Let Animals Lead method is so great with wild animals. And that's because we really don't seek anything from the animals. We're not trying to get something from them or not even a reaction or a response. We're simply holding space with love and compassion, and we're inviting them to share that space if they wish. So, if you're offering Reiki to wild animals, it could be that they're injured. I know that that's what happens to me in my life, in my world. And this month's blog, I've written about two wild animals that I connected with in my neighborhood. One was a vole. I don't know if you guys know about those, but they kind of look like mice, but they have a little bit of different shaped body. And they dig under people's lawns. And so they're kind of seen by a lot of people as not good, as sort of a pest. And then there's the coyotes. And in my neighborhood, people don't like coyotes because they have cats and dogs and they're worried about them. And so both of the animals that I have connected with in my neighborhood that I share about in my blog this month are animals that you would typically see human beings not having compassion for. And I think that is a really important piece of sharing Reiki with wild animals that I want to talk about for a minute. There's some animals that human beings count as good to be compassionate to. I'll just give you an example. Kittens, puppies. Who doesn't love them? Who doesn't think they're the cutest thing ever, right? So if you're sharing compassion and love with kittens and puppies, everybody thinks it's a great idea, right? Now let's move on to animals like I just was mentioning, the voles that dig up people's lawns or the coyotes that might steal someone's cat in a neighborhood. And now all of a sudden they don't want you to show compassion. Now it's like, oh, get rid of them. They don't deserve to live. They don't deserve to be here. And as animal Reiki practitioners, it's really important that we practice compassion for all beings, even, let's say, spiders. Maybe you're really scared of spiders, but that doesn't mean that we have to let go of our compassion for them. or snakes, for example. We don't have to let go of our compassion just because we have caution around them. We're a little fearful of them. We can still share compassion. So, sharing animal Reiki with an injured animal, especially perhaps an animal that we don't normally think of as warm and fuzzy and great, this is a really good exercise in that unconditional love that Reiki is all about. So I had an experience with a vole who showed up. A lot of times animals just show up outside my house when they're injured, asking for Reiki, and I'll come home from walking the dog, or I'll come home from driving, drive up to my driveway. There they are waiting, injured. And so then I have to share Reiki with them. So that's what happened in the case of the vole and the coyotes. So in the case of the vole, he showed up in my front yard. I didn't even see him. I came in with my dog and he ran over to him and was sniffing him. And he didn't move or do anything. And so I thought, oh, that's not good, because normally a little mouse would sort of run away. And so I brought my dog inside and my daughter was with me. And so we sat about maybe 15 feet away and we just kind of observed to see what was going on. And he looked like, my guess was perhaps that he was poisoned, because looked like he was in pain. He was shuddering a lot. His eyes were kind of squinty and it looked like he couldn't lift his head. He was kind of scrunched over and having kind of little seizure type things. And he really looked in bad shape. And so I started to share Reiki with him, and my daughter went and got a little saucer of water for him because she was concerned that he might be thirsty. And so she placed that about a foot away from him and then backed up and sat with me. And so for sharing with wild animals, when we share animal Reiki with the wild ones, we want to make sure we're backed up enough that our physical presence isn't scaring them. And I thought, even though he's kind of out of it, maybe perhaps a bit stunned or whatever he's going through, since he didn't respond to my dog, there's no reason that I have to come up and put my hands over him, be beaming with him or anything. I can stay completely out of his physical space so that he feels safe. And then I can just open up the space. Basically, I do that by going inward with my meditation. I will often find an affirmation. My favorite one is all is well. And then just quiet, really just quiet thoughts, quiet energy, quiet emotions, feeling peace and compassion just radiating. And that's the space where we invite the animals to step in if they wish to. But I'm not beaming anything at him. I'm not trying to fix whatever's going on with him. I'm just holding that space. So after a bit of time, maybe half an hour or so, he kind of woke up and I noticed his face looked more relaxed. You can see the pictures, kind of before and after pictures, on my blog this month. And he went over and he put his little hands on the edge of the saucer my daughter had got and he drank water. And I thought that was such a good sign. Then he kind of went off to the side where the fence is and he just sort of rested. And so I went inside with my daughter and we went back out to check on him about an hour later and he was gone. I like to imagine that he survived and he went back to his family, but the truth is I never really know in situations like that what happens. Perhaps it was his time to transition and he went and found a place to do that. I don't really know. But what I do know is that I saw a shift into more comfort and well-being for him during that Reiki meditation. And I've seen that many times with domestic animals. It also works with wild animals. But the key is that we have to present ourselves in a way that they're not frightened by our presence, that we're not pushing. For example, if I was beaming energy with my mind at him to, fix whatever his problem is, that could cause him more discomfort and actually cause fear, because they can really sense when humans are pushing their energy towards them, either physically or mentally or emotionally. They feel that energy because they're so sensitive and they've learned to be wary of humans. So we have to be extra careful to just hold back, go inward, and just invite the sharing of that space. So that was a really beautiful experience with the vole, even though I don't really know the outcome. I think it's really important in our sessions with wildlife to let go of the outcome. Really, with all animals, that's important. Let go of our expectations about what's going to happen and just be present with peace and love and compassion in that moment. And I think, being the human in my neighborhood, that the voles who are seen as, we have, you know, exterminators that come and get rid of them in neighbors' yards and stuff. So being the person that the voles know is compassionate, and they actually show up in my yard when they're not feeling well, that to me is it speaks to the bigger space of healing that Reiki creates, that it's not just about us as the practitioner and that one animal and their ailment, whatever it is. It's about the human animal dynamic on this planet. And it is so out of balance right now with all of the human domination and selfishness that has happened in our world. And so for us to share the energy of love and light and compassion without judgment in that way, it's a energetic vibration that is felt in the over the entire world, because energy, we're all one, we're all connected. So this is a beautiful ripple effect for compassion that we can create. Another recent experience I had in my neighborhood, this was a coyote who was injured, and he was actually kicked out of his path. So he was walking very slowly and laying down and looking kind of out of it for quite a while. And I called all of the local animal control and the rescue, wild animal rescue near us, and another one that was further away, and tried to. But I found out that in where I live, coyotes are seen as um, I don't know, negative. And so they don't do anything to help them. And so they just said, just keep an eye on him. And, if he can't get up, we'll come out and euthanize him once he can't move. But that's all we'll do for him. And so that kind of hurt my heart, because if it was if it was a dog, right? What's the difference between my dog and a coyote? Just the proximity to humans. If it was my dog who was injured, there I could take him to the emergency vet. There would be like a bunch of groups that would come in and try to help him, right? So noticing all of that, it's a space where we can hold that animal Reiki compassion and love for all beings in a world that doesn't always see that. So I think that's really important. So anyway, I started offering animal Reiki to, I named him Wiley, our little neighborhood coyote. And he would show up quite frequently. And he would sometimes be standing in my driveway, looking up at the windows where I would be sitting working. And I would feel someone was watching me, and I'd look out the window. There he was. So I'd have to stop and share Reiki with him. Sometimes I would come home and he would be standing outside our gate. And so one day, I just usually I'm in the house when I've shared Reiki with him and looking out the window. But one day I stood out on the front porch, and he laid down in the sun on the street, curled up, and went into a Reiki nap right outside my gate, which was really beautiful. And as I'm sharing Reiki with him, I'm having messages, excuse me. I'm thinking of messages and affirmations like all is well, and you're surrounded by love, and just words like compassion and harmony and balance, and really feeling that strongly. But what's really interesting is, at the same time, I'm seeing, when I'm walking my dog in the neighborhood in the mornings, in the afternoon, I'm walking my dog all the time in the neighborhood, I'm seeing an incredibly negative treatment of him by my neighbors. I have seen him being chased by cars, cussed out by, teenagers, people scaring him and throwing things at him, even people stopping me, telling me, oh, there's the coyote, over there, and yelling about how upsetting that is that he's living over there, and he looks all ratty because something's wrong with them. And I mean, I've had neighbors stop me and tell me how much they don't like him. And in those moments, I'm just sharing compassion for this situation. And again, I'm thinking, I've got a dog that looks just like him. My dog's 75 pounds, gray, you know, it's same size. Actually, maybe he's a little bit bigger than the coyote. And what is the difference? It's the proximity to humans. That's not a reason to value a life. But this is the way our society works. And so, as animal Reiki practitioners, part of what we do is, oh, there's an injured animal. Let me offer Reiki. Let me hold space. But part of it is also holding space for the bigger human animal dynamic, which is out of balance. It is not compassionate. It is full of anger and hate and fear. And this is something that Animal Reiki is made for, because we are radiating love and light and harmony and compassion. And so I'm just envisioning that harmony, that compassion, that love and light as I'm seeing this behavior from people driving their cars, as they're talking to me, how frustrated they are about things. It's like not even words to be said. It's an energy to radiate, right? And I feel that's really important to put that energy in the world. And so I really invite all of you, when you're thinking about the animals in your neighborhood, some of them might be animals that people think are great and, oh, hummingbirds or whatever. Others, maybe not. They might be seen as something negative. And I encourage you to hold space for that animal with compassion, but also for the people, to hold that radiate that. And that is something that the world needs right now. So please think about that as you are sharing Reiki with the animals in your area, the ones that you think are adorable and the ones that you might be a little more fearful of. We all deserve to live. All animals just want freedom and want to be content and live in authenticity, just like all of us want to. We all want that same thing. So, something to think about. So, the second aspect of working with wild animals, and this is where exotic animals often come in, is you could share animal Reiki with them in a rescue situation. So, either at a sanctuary, at some kind of a rescue where they are maybe being rehabbed. Sometimes they get re released if they can be, sometimes they can't. And so, when we go into these kinds of places, it can be very challenging to stay positive, because we're seeing wild animals not in their natural habitat. We're seeing them, for a variety of reasons. Pretty much all of these reasons are human based. Um, we're seeing animals having to live, in confinement. And some sanctuaries have more space than others, but it's not the wild. Some of them will get to go back to their families and their where they come from, but many of them won't. So we can sometimes, many of us are empaths, we can feel a lot of sadness about that. And so the first thing we want to do is look at that, and we want to let go of that. We want to sit with an animal uh, in that kind of confinement. We want to sit with them with the eyes, the Reiki eyes, and the energy, the heart that mirrors back to them. You are perfect. You are beautiful. I see you. All is well. And when we can radiate that beautiful perfection and light back to them, animals who may be giving up on their situation because they've been through so much, or they just feel depressed or sort of shut down, so many times I see the lights coming back on in their eyes, and it's so beautiful. So remember that as animal Reiki practitioners, be the light for the animals, but realize you're also a mirror to them. And what they see reflected in your eyes, in your heart, in your energy, it's it's how they will kind of see themselves. And so we want to make sure that they see what we see, which is how amazing and beautiful and perfect they are. And this can sometimes bring that spark back to their eyes that might have been gone. So it's a really beautiful thing to see. So, staying positive in the rescue rehab sanctuary setting with wild and exotic animals really important. I remember a lesson from Makoto, the black leopard, who lived at the Care Foundation. I think where is he? He's up in the corner. Oh, maybe you can't see him. Let me see here. You can see him there. There he is in the corner right there. If you can see him. So Makoto actually taught me an important lesson. When I met Makoto at the Care Foundation, I was going through breast cancer and I was having a lot of difficulty physically with all of the pain and limitations since my surgery. And at the same time, I was sitting doing Reiki with Makoto, and I was feeling a lot of sadness about his situation because I wanted to see him in the wild. I wanted him to be able to run through the jungle and, be like Mowgli in the Jungle Book, And instead, here he was. And one day when I was sitting with him, I had this really amazing vision where he was showing me. I imagined, what if first I imagined, what if we could take a walk together? What if I could walk with Makoto through a jungle? What if I could see him climb trees and run and be who he is? And I sort of envisioned what that would look like. And then I sort of felt sad. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you aren't free. And I envisioned, suddenly he came to me and he just said to me, we all have our cages, Kathleen. And he showed me my physical body and how much pain I was in and how I couldn't move my arm very well. I couldn't run. I was, having to just be much more careful. And he said, we all have our cages, but our spirits are always free. And I realized, wow, I need to let go of my cage and be free in this moment, don't I? And he knows that. And he may have to live in this rescue center instead of in the wild, but his spirit is free. And that's kind of the space where he lives, in that spiritual realm. That's the realm that Animal Reiki touches. And that was such a kind of an eye opener. And it really reminded me, don't pity these animals. Don't feel sad for them. See them in their fullness, in their strength, in their beauty. And like, the word that comes to my mind with Makoto is majesty. Like, he was like a king. He really was. He was amazing, just so full of grace and dignity. And he made you feel respectful. He was amazing. Um, Even though his situation and his past had of cruelty with humans and everything had brought him to this rescue, which thank goodness he was there and treated well and respected and safe and everything. Um, so these are some thoughts that I have for all of you when you are sharing animal Reiki in rescues. Really allowing that positivity, light, and seeing their spirit take over, letting go of their situation, their past, and all of that. It's really important. So, the final thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight that I think is really important, and I've touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's, sharing Reiki with wild animals and exotic animals in regards to the world issues they are facing right now. We have things like illegal wildlife trade and poaching that is happening all over the world. We have, you know, animals like cetaceans, like dolphins, killer whales, that are being captured in the wild and then forced to perform in these SeaWorld type places to audiences. We have, you know, elephants in certain countries being forced to take tourists for rides. And, you know, there's a lot of ecotourism that is helping to educate people to not go to these places that use animals negatively so we can educate ourselves about it. But it goes on a lot. Of course, not even to mention the hunting that happens. And a lot of people from the United States travel all over the world to hunt and kill these beautiful animals in different places. So, and then also there's stuff like climate change and a decreasing habitat due to human, you know, cutting down forests and agriculture and stuff like that, so that actually the habitats where animals live are getting smaller and smaller. We have things in the ocean that is polluting the ocean. We have the air pollution. All of these things are difficult for animals. And so if we stop and think about, gosh, you know, all the things that wild animals face just to survive in this world, it can feel kind of overwhelming, can't it? And so this is where our animal Reiki practice is really, really powerful, all of you. And, you know, this month, all month, my online community, we're dedicating all of our practice every day to wild and exotic animals all around the world and these kind of issues. So I invite all of you who are here listening to this to do that with us, because there are power in numbers. Our group and shared intention will be felt powerfully. So we're going to do the same thing in our animal Reiki practice when we share it with a situation that animals face that we care about, as when we are with the animal in person. That is, that we're going to see deeper than the problem. We're going to see the light and the perfection of the animals and see their just their beautiful soul, and we're going to find an affirmation, like something like all is well is what I really like. We're going to imagine infusing that whole situation with love and light, harmony and compassion. And even for the human beings that might be contributing negatively to that situation, we are holding the space and light for them, that their hearts might be touched, that their minds might be open, you know. The power of love, the power of compassion is the most powerful force in the universe. It is much stronger than greed. It's stronger than hate. So if we can focus our energy on that when we're doing our meditation, that will be so powerful. So, what I like to do is just dedicate my practice to whatever that animal issue is, and then go inward and feel my energy change and my emotions all being positive, and that love and light just radiating from me, to embrace that situation, whatever it may be that I want to focus on. So, this is sort of the transcendent aspect of animal Reiki that wild animals bring to us, because maybe we're not with them physically, but it's an issue. Those of us, for example, that love whales, they're on our hearts. We're thinking of them. Those of us who love elephants, they're on our hearts. We're thinking of them. We don't get a chance to see them in our life. They live somewhere completely different on the planet, but they're in our hearts. This is where we connect with them in the animal Reiki space. And this is a space that is transcends distance, transcends, you know, any kind of suffering that the animals have. And it's just a place of love and light. And I like to say healing possibility. So I like to imagine, what if we could live in harmony with all animals? What if these situations could change? What if we didn't have hunting expeditions anymore? What if we didn't have, you know, whales and dolphins in shows anymore? What if they were re-released into the wild, or at least in a big, big sanctuary? What if people valued all animals as beings that deserve to be free and to live their life? What would the world look like? Let yourself imagine it. Let yourself see it with your mind's eye and with your heart, with your emotions, with your soul, and then share that energy and love with the world as you offer that animal Reiki. If we can't see it, we can't achieve it. So let's start by seeing it and then sharing that vibration with the world as we share animal Reiki for these bigger issues. So, those were some of my thoughts for tonight. Thank you all for listening, and I hope it has been helpful for you guys. And I'm going to open it up to all of you for anyone that might have questions or comments um, before we finish with our healing circle.
I just wanted to say thank you, Kathleen. I'm going to be thinking of more what ifs until I put my head on the pillow tonight. So thank you for that.
Oh, good. Wonderful. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I think, maybe my biggest sort of takeaway from my work with wild animals is really seeing deeper than usual, really going to the heart, to the soul level. This is the space that wild animals challenge us to meet them at. With domesticated animals, we rely on a lot. We rely on how cute they are, how we feel comfortable with them, how they tolerate touch, how they like our physical presence, and it's a much more familiar conversation that we can have with them when we're sharing Reiki. With wild animals, we have to transcend that and be in the soul space, a deep space of oneness. And they challenge us to go there and to meet them there. And so it's a beautiful lesson that we can get from them every single time that we invite them to connect. All right. So why don't we finish with our animal healing circle tonight? So we'll go into Gasho, palms together. We'll take a moment to dedicate all the energy of this practice to the wild animals on this planet, in the air, on the land, in the sea. We dedicate this practice to you and invite you to step in and share this love and compassion unconditionally. And we'll rest our hands on our lap and we'll do some breathing into the lower belly. So, envisioning your breath as a pure and clear light. And as you breathe in, it comes in through the crown and fills your body all the way down to the lower belly, the hara. And then as you exhale, imagine that light can expand out of every pore in your skin and into your aura and out into the universe. Breathing in the light, filling your body, connecting with the belly. Breathing out, expanding that light. And breathing in and breathing out. Just take a moment to do a few of those breaths at your own pace. And then just relax your breath for a moment and see yourself sitting in a space of light, light within and the light all around you. And this light is filled with unconditional love and compassion, loving kindness, harmony, balance, perfect healing potential. We just invite all the wild animals to step into this space with us. Let's create this new world, compassion between species. Let's create this together. We can invite the animals in our lives, our animals, into the space. We can invite in the situations the wild animals around the world are facing. And we invite all who enter and step into this space of light, possibility for a new paradigm where compassion rules all, where loving kindness and harmony is possible. And this can actually heal our whole planet. We can learn to do this and be together in harmony. We can heal so much. Let's just hold that possibility for a moment. And let's bring our hands back into Gasho and take a moment to thank the animals who stepped into this space, who shared this healing space with us tonight. And setting our intention to finish the meditation, take a nice deep breath and slowly come back and open your eyes. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I hope this has been some food for thought for you about how to show up for the wild animals in your life or the wild animals in your heart. And wishing you all a beautiful March. And I will see you guys next month for our April talk. Blessings, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.